How does waking up from your bed and walking 10 feet to work sound? Remote jobs offer the appeal of not having to deal with commuting back and forth each day and allows you to work within the comforts of your own home. That's what we're talking about today. 5 work from home positions that do not require a college degree. Let's get right into it. The first one on this list is remote customer service rep. Most people at one point have at least worked in retail where you have to deal with customers. So you might already have relatable experience already. This would be, of course, just remote over the phone. I'm not just going to list one particular company because most major companies have these positions available. The remote option would just be with larger companies such as American Express, Amazon, most streaming service platforms, and major airlines as well. And if you search for this job, the title might be slightly different, but the duties are essentially the same. The bulk of the job typically lies within trying to solve a problem that a customer might have. A while back, for example, I had to call up Hulu, the streaming platform. I forgot my password and I had called someone to try to resolve this. She was able to retrieve my password after confirming some personal information. The funny part is I heard a TV running in the background and kids running around, so most likely she was working remotely at home. And there's even virtual options where you would not have to speak with customers directly over the phone. It would just be like a text dialogue. For example, American Express and Amazon does have this option as well. The pay ranges anywhere from about $30,000 to $55,000. And the pay for this remote position, along with the other ones we're talking about today, are going to vary quite a bit because sometimes it's dependent on the state that you live in. Someone in Mississippi is going to have a different salary range than someone that lives in New York City. The cost of living from state to state differs, as does the salary. To get into this position, of course, experience does help, but to be honest, a lot of employers are looking for someone who is very personable. So a welcoming and very friendly personality does go a long way when you're interviewing for a position like this. The next one up on this list is social media coordinator. We live in a time where most people get their news, their information, and their entertainment from social media. So TikTok and Instagram, for example, instead of the newspaper like it was, a few decades ago. It's a digital world that we live in now, so this is a very big industry. And most companies and businesses have a platform on social media. They usually hire someone to create videos or photo posts about some of the services that they offer and the range of products that they offer as well. So social media coordinators are the ones responsible for handling all of this. Their main objective is to keep the brand alive, engage online interest and its audience, and to bring in new customers. These days, fewer people advertise on the newspaper or the radio or on TV. They're advertising on these social media platforms. And that's because most people use these platforms now. If you think about, especially the younger generation like Gen Z, they're on it on a daily basis. In terms of the other roles of this position, social media coordinators typically respond to inquiries from both customers and other businesses, and they deal with influencer or content creator outreach, which, as I said before, is the more modern way of approaching advertisement. So in general, these coordinators are going to be managing many platforms. So we're looking at Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and they even manage and respond to comments made on Google reviews as well as Yelp. Quite a few platforms to juggle. They also coordinate with photographers and videographers to shoot content that they might need for posting. And very often these coordinators will use something like Canva, which is a website that allows you to blend in graphics or text or different images in order for you to manipulate an image for posting. And it's pretty easy to learn. Some people use Photoshop as well, which is, the learning curve is a little bit higher. So there are people who do this in person, but there's plenty of remote positions available as well. And the salary typically ranges anywhere from $40,000 to $70,000 per year. And in certain cities like New York City, I've seen it go as high as $80,000 to $90,000 per year. You might see some positions that require a marketing degree or advertising degree, but this is not always necessary. The work that you produced in the past is more important here, as well as your experience. If you were aiming to become the director of marketing, then yes, you would probably need a degree for that position. The next one up is the remote position of content moderator. When a user of a social media platform posts a video or photo, it is viewed by someone who ensures that the content is safe for viewers. Yelp has a position like this for filtering spam comments, but we're mostly going to be referring to video-based platforms. So This is going to be TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, for example. So working as a content moderator can be a very traumatic job. You know, you're viewing videos all day, first of all, and you're looking at videos attempting to be posted that can be very evil, or it can be, you know, very graphic. You know, you're the filtering person for that. So you're filtering on content that may be deemed unsafe for the public. You're sort of the company's first line of defense against that to keep the platform safe for viewers. The salary range is pretty wide for this. It can range anywhere from $13 to $50 an hour in the US. Some of these companies will require that you work in the same state as one of their headquarters. If you take TikTok, for example, if you work for them, you may need to go in person in their office once a week to work. And I want to point out that this position can be susceptible to being outsourced to a different country where they can pay their workers less compared to the United States. So, you know, keep that in mind. The next one up is photo or video editor, and they're really two different positions, but I'm just going to lump them together for the purposes of this video. If you're a photo editor, there's companies that pay you to edit a large batch of photos, and you know, you would need a program called Lightroom. It's either on the desktop. I do it off my phone. There's a Lightroom mobile app that you can do this as well. If you're a video editor, most of the time it's going to be long form videos like on YouTube, and also short form videos, you know, usually under a minute on TikTok and Instagram, for example. The short form videos are not very difficult to learn how to edit. You'll be using a program such as Final Cut that's available on Apple, or, you know, Adobe Premiere, for example. And I would say the majority of these positions are done remotely. Editors usually can work from the comforts of their own home. The reason why there's so many remote positions is because most of these projects have a deadline, so you have to get it done within a certain time frame. It doesn't matter if you're working in an office or at home. Now, there are degrees you can get for this, but I find that they're not really necessary. The majority of the time it is not. I find that there's a lot of resources available online. I myself have learned on YouTube, for example, how to edit. So the wages for a photo editor can be anywhere from $40,000 to $70,000 per year. And for video editing, it's a little bit more. It can range anywhere from $40,000 to $100,000 a year. And I find the range for video editors to range very widely. You know, it depends on your skill set. Mr. Beast's video editor on YouTube, he's one of the biggest YouTubers out there. He brings in $4 to $5 million per year. So that's what I mean. Like, it depends who you work for. It's hard to put a set salary range on this kind of thing. And the last remote position we'll be discussing today is home care service coordinators. So I actually communicate with these people on a daily basis. I'm an occupational therapist and I do home care on a part-time basis. So go to people's homes to provide therapy services. If a family has a newborn child who has some kind of developmental disability, there's usually an agency that sends out providers such as physical therapy, occupational, speech. There's home care service coordinators who are sort of the middle person who directs these services to that family. They're basically advocates for these families. They also deal with the administrative and paperwork side of things, and they also try to find new clients that may need services. So I actually have a close friend that does this for a living, and you know, the salary range at his particular company is very wide, you know, and it's pretty consistent with some of the postings that I've seen. It can range anywhere from $30,000 to $130,000 a year. And what makes that gap so large is what skill sets you have, and if you're bilingual. Being bilingual is huge. You know, a lot of immigrant families will be seeking services, and English isn't always their first language, or it's limited. So being able to communicate in their language is extremely helpful, and it's a desirable, you know, skill set to have. And also you have to consider the amount of experience you might have and how large the company is. So there's many factors to this. But from what I've seen, most of the salary ranges in the middle of that range that we talked about. So, you know, that 70 to 80,000 range a year. Some companies require a degree in psychology or sociology, but you know, it's not always listed as a requirement for these job postings. I actually know a few people who are able to do this without that degree. You know, to me, it seems like the experience is more important, and that's what matters a little bit more. There are people who do this in office and also remotely as well. The ones that work remotely, sometimes they're required to go in the office once a week to work in person. And I want to point out one thing about trying to get a remote job. I find that getting your foot in is the hardest part. If you go around just looking for remote jobs, you might need to work in person a little bit first to get that experience in order to leverage a remote position. They're not always the easiest to get into. I would say out of the list of positions that I have listed, the remote customer service rep is probably the easiest with the lowest requirements. But if you're talking about growth and demand, I see being a remote video editor as a field that's growing, and there's pretty good opportunities to be a remote home care service coordinator as well. That's another industry that's growing. So if you want a higher salary, you might want to consider those fields. So I hope this video was helpful, and if it was in any way, make sure you hit the like button and consider subscribing. If you have any questions, comment below. I'll try my best to answer them, and I'll see everyone in the next video.